Hi, Dr. Nicola with Pura Vida here, and I wanted to talk today about what happens when you receive a diagnosis. I had a couple of women, not related, last week coming in, and they had each received a pretty specific diagnosis that had their systems potentially had their systems up. And what was interesting about each of them, totally independently, said, even as I was sitting in my primary care or my OBGYN's office, I knew I was going to come and talk to you, and there would be something different that we could create. And so I want to talk to you today about diagnosis and kind of the pros and the cons of receiving this sort of information. Step one is that a diagnosis is just another piece of information. It's a data point. It's a framework with which we can understand some of the physiology of what's happening in our body. So it can be really beneficial. It gives us a context for what we're working with. Is it autoimmune? Is it inflammatory? Is it digestively related? Is it more in the nervous system? That sort of thing. But that's where it can begin and where it can end. And what happens in our Western medical society is that we attach meaning to these diagnoses. This is permanent. You're never going to get over this. This situation is serious and requires this sort of intervention. And that's where we can play, because that is not what I believe to be true. I don't ever believe that even if we get a chronic illness diagnosis that's supposed to be forever, that we're stuck with that. And so that's why these different women came to me last week, is because they knew something else was possible and that their bodies were calling to them, as though the physical body is a portal into what is they're ready to expand into. Yes, this is part of my reality right now. What do I need to receive? What frequency do I need to step into? What do I need to let go of in order to appreciate a new level of health and vitality and a different vibratory frequency that is more expanded from where I'm residing right now? Now, there's no judgment in that, being in this frequency versus this frequency versus this frequency. Again, it's just different frequencies. So no judgment or harshness or criticism to ourselves or judgment towards others for where anybody is at. We're all in different frequency points at all times. But receiving a diagnosis can be one of those moments where we can really go within and really start to explore, what have we been participating in that we're ready to shift out of? Where have we been limited in our expression? Where have we maybe not been taking care of ourselves in the way that our body or our heart have been calling us to do? And so this, again, there's a context and a framework here, but we don't have to stay stuck in it. And what happens a lot of times when we get this piece of information like a diagnosis, then all of the thought forms that have ever been associated with this diagnosis come into our consciousness, come into our energy field. And that's where we start to worry and analyze and problem solve, and we can very, very quickly get in a really tough mental space around what that's our health status or what's going on. And what I love about each of these women last week, so many things, but specifically what we're talking about today, is that they had a knowing. Even in the doctor's office receiving this information, each of them had a knowing that this very specific outcome was not the only possibility. And they did what they needed to do immediately to expand and not get stuck in the tightness of an expectation of these mind thought forms that keep us, kind of regimented and stuck in a lower frequency level, and don't allow us to access the fullness of possibilities, the fullness of our expression, and the true power that we have to co-create our reality in partnership with the universe at any given time, regardless of what's going on. And so we've been talking about this a lot, this idea of being with what's here. And this can be a really interesting game to play. Let's say I receive a diagnosis of, let's say I have COVID, and all those thought forms that associate with COVID, and it's scary, and now I'm a risk to other people, and there's a risk that I might die, and all of these things that have been floating around in our collective since March of 2020, they can start to kind of like accumulate all over our being. And so it's my job when I'm receiving this data point to say, you know what? I notice that these thought forms are around me and I don't choose to play with them anymore. I choose to upgrade my experience and get really curious around what's here for me now. Maybe I notice my throat is scratchy, or I have a cough, or I have a headache, or I'm more tired. And we just get to notice these things in neutrality rather than spinning out on what they might be, or what other people's experience has been before, or what some other people in our community might believe. That may have have a knowing from the mind, not a knowing from the heart of, oh, well, this is a trajectory, and this, let me tell you right now, is what your future is. And I'm here to tell you that so much more is possible for you. So if you want to play, let me know. We can connect one-on-one. We've got memberships, and then I'm always here in this connectivity live every Tuesday. So send me your questions. I want to play. I want to help everybody and all of us move into the next level of possibility and expansion for each and every one of us. And even getting a health diagnosis of any sort is that same invitation for us to step in and grow. Thanks so much for joining. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.